I decided to make a small tour, share with you some stuff, maybe some stories you are not familiar with, and I also got myself a new mic, so kind of testing the quality. Let me clean the lens real quick of my camera. Okay, I'll just put on my hat. Okay, I hope everything is good. So, first, let's start with this building here. This is the National Opera and Ballet building, which was constructed in the 20th century. Um, and interestingly, the architect Alexander Tamanyan was criticized for his architecture. The Soviet architects a group of architects wrote a letter to Moscow telling that Mr. Tamanyan was spreading bourgeois style architecture with his public gardens like this, and the wide streets. And those architects said that we don't need this kind of architecture in Soviet Armenia, you see. So he was criticized for his style, and he was copying the Western style in many of his buildings, not just this one. And this one, here's an interesting fact you may not be aware of. This building is actually unfinished. Originally, the architect, Mr. Tamanyan, wanted to cover the whole building with white marble and also have a huge statue of Stalin on top of the building. Like, if Moscow gave him all the money, we would now have a huge statue of Stalin on this building. But fortunately, Moscow said we don't have that much money, we cannot allocate additional funds. So this is the looks of the building now. And we are lucky that we don't have that statue, that humongous statue of Stalin. Actually, there were other statues of Stalin, but they were dismantled in 60s and after, when Nikita Khrushchev, one of the general secretaries of the USSR, criticized Stalin for his dictatorship. And after that, slowly, the cult of Stalin got dissolved and the statues were dismantled. So now, this street is, let me show it. Yes, this avenue is the Northern Avenue. And in fact, it has a pretty bloody history behind it. Originally, Mr. Tamanyan planned to have Northern Avenue right here, but he did not accomplish that. And this avenue was actually constructed many years later, around 2000s. And many inhabitants of this place were forcefully relocated, and many of them didn't get enough refund to buy new houses and apartments. So we had this infamous president, Robert Kocharyan, who didn't even have the right to be elected as a president because he did not reside in the country for 5 or more years. I don't remember the exact number, but they falsified stuff. He became a dictator in Armenia, and he built this avenue. But the whole process, just as it is with the dictators, was full of corruption, falsifications, and I once even read an article which said that one of the former residents of this avenue, a woman, committed suicide because of years of injustice. I cannot say it's true, but I remember that the article was out there, published, and a lot of people, they actually gave interviews and they shared their sorrow, their pain, their hatred, how much suffering they went through because they were given either very little money for their houses, because this place We had private houses, not even apartments, but houses. And they were not given adequate sum to purchase new houses or even apartments. So the interviews are there of people, sharing their suffering and stuff. So this avenue is kind of, it reeks, as we say in English, R-E-E-K, to reek. It reeks of blood. The smell of blood is here, yeah, to say in plain English. And there are some architects which also criticize the style. They say it's like Europe in late 60s and 70s. I'm not an architect, I cannot comment on that. But yeah, we have what we have. And many of these objects actually belong to Kocharyan's sons, his family members, relatives. And this is how things were done in Yerevan for the past 28, almost 30 years, before the revolution of 2018, which some say was semi-revolution because a lot of officials remained where they were. The prime minister got changed. We elected Nikol Pashinyan, a different prime minister, but he decided to keep a lot of former officials. That's why some people say that changes happened on top. I cannot deny that we have some positive changes, across all different sectors, but I also cannot deny the fact that we also had some bad stories. For instance, in the city hall, there was a case of blackmail by the current regime representatives against some free city hall members who were not voting the way the majority wanted them to vote. So at least two guys quit, and they shared those stories of intimidation and blackmail publicly. So you most probably won't hear many of these stories about Tamanyan, about the letter of complaint against him. So this content is kind of unique in that respect. Still, we have some new buildings arising. There's a lot of construction. You see another construction crane over there. A lot of construction going on in Yerevan. And because of that, unfortunately, hi Tamara Simonian, hello. How are you, Tamara? Because of that, we have a lot of dust across Yerevan. So we have those statues, a lot of places like this for eating. Here, actually, everything is pretty expensive, like the cafeteria, the stores, well, just like with all those, similar city centers, yes, across civilized countries. So that's kind of fine. What else could I share? Oh yeah, they say that Alexander Tamanyan would have been sent to Siberia, most probably, hadn't he died in 1936, if I remember the year of his death correctly. Because in 1937 there were a lot of repressions and a lot of oppression organized by Stalin against people who were considered as threat to the Soviet regime, and lots of writers, architects, poets, citizens, ordinary citizens, thousands in all the republics, and if we get all the numbers together, at least tens of thousands, but most probably more than that, were forcefully relocated, arrested, sent to Siberia, etc., etc. And there is this theory that Alexander Tamanyan, the main architect of the city of Yerevan, would have suffered the same fate had he not died earlier. And this building over here is, well, in Armenian we call it the Palace of the Deaf and of the numb, yeah, people who cannot hear and who cannot talk. In socialist regimes, and they like the word palace a lot. A palace of justice, palace of this and that. So this is the palace of the deaf. And we have this art going on the facade of the building. Let me show you. Yeah, the art is kind of unique. It's Soviet style art, you see? Yeah. Oh, not bad. Traditional Armenian art and Soviet style art. And they're making lavash over here. Armenian style bread, flat, long bread called lavash. Russian is kind of common, but nowadays I'd say less young people speak Russian and more older generation representatives speak Russian. And here, by the way, in this building, in this palace, we also have the Jewish Community Center in Yerevan. I used to learn Hebrew here. Now I also teach Hebrew. Still, I'm a beginner. My level is beginner level. I'm not fluent in Hebrew, but still I teach it. So if you'd like to benefit from my lessons, you're welcome. I teach English, French, Hebrew, philosophy, sexuality, chess, and a number of other topics. Right, moving on, and this is a regular yard. We have lots of these. These buildings are called Khrushchevka by the name of that Secretary General of USSR, Khrushchev, and they are characterized by their low ceiling and by lack of space. The apartments are very small, and inside you have like bathroom and toilet combined in one room. That was also done to kind of save space, and the ideology was we are not bourgeois, we don't need to have the bath separately from the toilet, so one family member could go to the toilet while the other family member would take a shower. So that was the ideology. And I love these trees. I don't know what they're called, but the leaves look kind of exotic and they are common. So even in the city center, we have those buildings, those Khrushchevka buildings. But fortunately, now a lot of construction is going on also in the city center. And the face of the city is changing as well, which is nice. It's as if the city of Yerevan is putting on a new coat, which is more Western. And this architectural style is changing. Yeah, food is sold on the streets like this. The city hall is trying to fight this, especially when it's done on the pavements of the buildings right next to the roads. But people are also trying to live, survive, maintain their businesses. So it's a fight. Here we have KFC. Actually, it's the backside of KFC. We'll see it in a minute. And we are on Mashtot Street. This is one of the arterial or central streets of Yerevan. We have those Chinese buses, which are a few years old. Before 2018, we didn't have those buses. We had Soviet-style smaller cars called gazelles. here it is, KFC. We don't have McDonald's, but we have KFC. So I'll take my bus from here as well. And Mashtots is the guy who invented the Armenian alphabet. So there are not many nations across the globe which have their own alphabet, and Armenia is one of those nations that has their own letters. Yeah, the Armenian alphabet. For instance, in English, it's the Latin alphabet, which is taken by the Romans from ancient Greeks. Ancient Romans adopted ancient Greek alphabet, right? So, yeah, around 1,700 years ago, Mesrop Mashtots invented the Armenian alphabet as we are taught in schools. If you have questions about the city of Yerevan, drop me a message. I'll be happy to answer your questions. And also tell me what type of content would you like to see on my channel. Lives around what topics and short clips around what topics. And this is my bus. I think I'm gonna take it. So take care. See you soon.